She was born a celebrity, daughter of an action legend. But wrestling was never part of her story. Tonight, under glaring lights, whispers of doubt surrounded her. Was she here for fame, or to prove the world wrong? One match, one chance. And when the unexpected attack came, she didn't cry, she didn't scream. She stood, alone, bruised, unbroken. This is the story no one saw coming. The dressing room was quiet, just the low hum of fluorescent lights overhead. Arissa Le Brock stood alone, eyes locked on her reflection in the mirror. She had already laced her boots, tied her hair back, and taped her wrists. Everything was in place except her thoughts. Behind her eyes played a silent reel of memories, the flash of paparazzi cameras, the smell of leather from her father's dojo, the long red carpets of Cannes and Tokyo, being led through crowds by men in black suits. Steven Seagal, her father, standing tall in his long coat, bowing with quiet grace as fans screamed his name. She had been born into that world, a world where fists were thrown only on movie sets, where she was expected to smile, pose, and one day maybe follow her mother into modeling. Wrestling? That was never part of the script. Not for someone like her. Not for the daughter of an action legend. She adjusted her shoulder strap. Her fingers trembled slightly. Tonight was not about her father's legacy, but no matter how hard she tried, she could feel it wrapped around her like a second skin. Too tight, too loud, too known. The locker room door clicked open. A distant voice called, 5 minutes. She inhaled slowly, deeply. They would all be watching. Not for her last name, and maybe that was why she was here. Not to escape the shadow, but to prove it never defined her. She stared at her reflection one last time, then looked past it, into something only she could see, and in that moment, under the glow of cheap arena lights, the daughter of Steven Seagal finally stepped into her own story, long before the arena lights, before the announcement, before the whispers and headlines. There was silence. Arissa trained in the quiet corners of the world, far from cameras, far from her father's shadow. A private gym in Arizona. A retired female wrestler who asked no questions. Mats that smelled like dust and sweat. No photos. No interviews. Just repetition, grit, and bruises that told their own story. Not even her closest friends knew. While they posted brunch photos and vacation reels, Arissa snuck away at dawn to practice footwork. On weekends, she wore hoodies and kept her head down, entering underground sparring circles under a different name. The first time she took a hard bump, she lay on the mat for minutes. No one offered to help her up. That was the point. She wanted to feel the sting, earn every callus. Because if anyone ever thought she was there because of who her father was, she needed to know, deep down, they were wrong. This dream, it was not borrowed. It was built in secret. Steven Seagal never pushed her into fighting. In truth, he had no idea she had fallen in love with the ring. She never asked for his training, never leaned on his name. The art, the fire, it had to be hers. Quietly, fully, without applause, she kept a journal, wrote down every injury, every lesson. She never shared it until the day she signed her WWE developmental contract, and even then, she told no one. Just packed a bag, booked a flight, and disappeared into a world where her last name carried weight, but her skills had to carry more, because this was not a performance. This was the war she had chosen. It started with a single tweet, breaking: Arissa Le Brock, daughter of Steven Seagal, to debut in WWE this Friday night. The internet caught fire. Some laughed, others rolled their eyes. Comment threads filled with sarcasm. Another celebrity kid playing wrestler. Let me guess, she wins her first match in 5 seconds? Nepotism just hit a suplex. Within hours, her name was trending. WWE forums buzzed with speculation. Fans dug up old photos, red carpets, gala events, fashion runways. No footage of her training. No independent matches. No promos. Just tabloid snapshots and her famous last name. To most, she was a mystery, and that made her dangerous or laughable. In backstage circles, even some wrestlers whispered, "Why is she here? Is this a storyline gimmick? Is she just a publicity stunt?" But WWE doubled down. Her debut match was announced for Friday Night SmackDown primetime. No tag team, no celebrity segment. A real match, one-on-one, against a seasoned competitor. Commentators teased it with dramatic flair, but even they hesitated behind the scenes. It had been years since someone with such little public wrestling exposure stepped into the ring under the spotlight of millions. Was she ready? Arissa said nothing. No interviews. No hype packages. No playful jabs on social media. Just silence, and that silence made people uneasy. Because silence meant either she had nothing to say, or something to prove. The night approached like a slow-moving storm. Fans bought tickets out of curiosity. Viewers set reminders. No one could look away. Because whether she soared or fell, everyone wanted to witness the moment the daughter of Steven Seagal stepped into the squared circle, and no one expected what was coming next. The lights dimmed. Her music hit. It was not loud or flashy, just a deep, steady rhythm like the sound of boots on stone. Arissa Le Brock stepped onto the ramp, face unreadable. No dance. No smirk. Just calm, quiet focus. Some fans booed. Others watched with folded arms, waiting to be proven right. Her opponent was already in the ring, a rising star, fast, ruthless, and hungry to make a statement. The kind of wrestler who saw Arissa as an easy headline. The bell rang, and everything changed. Her opponent charged. Arissa did not flinch. She ducked under the first clothesline, pivoted, and hit a textbook judo throw that slammed the woman flat on the mat. The crowd gasped. Then came a flurry, kicks, grapples, counters. Arissa moved like someone who had been studying for years in the dark. Her balance was crisp, her timing exact. She absorbed hits without panic, responded with calm fury. She was not flashy. She was efficient, focused, dangerous. Midway through the match, the tone in the arena shifted. The mocking stopped. A hush rolled through the crowd. Viewers at home leaned forward. Tweets changed from jokes to, "Wait, she can actually fight. Where has she been hiding?" By the time she hit a spinning back elbow that staggered her opponent, even the announcers dropped their sarcasm. She had come to wrestle, not because of her name, not for show, but because she belonged here. Arissa took a deep breath, eyes scanning the crowd. And for the first time, she saw something different in their faces, not disbelief, not laughter, but respect. She had not won the match yet, but she had already won the room. The match had reached its breaking point. Both women were battered, breathing heavy, muscles aching under the heat of the lights. Arissa's chest rose and fell steadily. Her opponent stumbled backward after taking a hard knee to the midsection. The crowd roared, some now standing, fists in the air. She was close. So close. The girl who entered the ring under a cloud of doubt was now just seconds away from shocking the entire WWE universe. Then came the mistake. Arissa turned to set up her next move just for a second, her back exposed. That was all it took. A steel chair, hidden under the apron, came flying into the ring. Crack. The sound echoed across the arena like a gunshot. Arissa collapsed, motionless. The referee's back had been turned, arguing with a corner distraction. The crowd erupted in boos, outrage rising like a wave. She did not move. Her opponent slid the chair out of the ring and went for the cover. 1, 2, 3. It was over. Stolen. The bell rang, and the winner's music played, but no one cheered. There were no chants, no smiles, just a rising tide of disbelief and fury from the audience. Some covered their mouths. Others shouted at the ref. The announcers were stunned, their voices filled with disgust. "You've got to be kidding me. That was robbery." And in the middle of the ring, Arissa lay on her side, her hand curled into a fist. She had fought for respect. She had earned it. And just when she was about to finish the story, someone had rewritten the ending. But what the crowd did not know, what no one knew yet, was that Arissa Le Brock was not finished, not even close. She did not move at first. The music played on, hollow, victorious, undeserved. Her opponent stood over her for a moment, arms raised in mock triumph, before slipping out of the ring. Boos followed her up the ramp like a storm cloud, but Arissa stayed. The camera zoomed in close on her face. No tears, no shaking hands, just her eyes, wide open, blinking slowly against the white-hot arena lights above. Her mouth did not move. Her breathing was slow, steady, controlled, like someone who had been here before, not in this ring, maybe, but in pain. In betrayal, in silence. The audience stopped chanting. The commentators went quiet. Even the flashing lights from cell phones seemed to dim. Time held its breath. She turned onto her side, one hand planted on the mat. Her body moved as if weighed down by more than muscle and bone. She pushed up to her knees, then one foot, then the other. Still no drama, no referee rushing in, no medical staff, no tears, She stood, and for a brief second, just a heartbeat, she looked out at the crowd. Some clapped, unsure if they should. Others stood motionless, eyes locked on her like they were watching something sacred. She did not raise her hands. She did not acknowledge the cameras. She just walked, one step, then another, toward the ropes, through them, down the steel steps, alone, back straight, head high, and as she disappeared behind the curtain, the crowd remained in stunned silence, caught between heartbreak and awe. They came expecting a headline, but what they witnessed was a woman walk through fire and never once scream. The press room was packed. Reporters from every major outlet, sports, entertainment, sat shoulder to shoulder beneath the harsh fluorescent lights. Microphones lined the table. Cameras hummed. A hush settled over the room like fog. The door creaked open. She walked in alone. No manager, no WWE official, no entourage, just Arissa. Her face was bruised, a small cut above her eyebrow, her left cheekbone swollen. She wore a simple black hoodie zipped to her throat, her hair pulled back, her posture straight but heavy with fatigue. For a moment, no one moved. She approached the podium slowly, her footsteps quiet against the concrete floor. Some reporters glanced at one another, ready for fireworks, ready for tears, for rage, for a soundbite they could spin into headlines. Would she quit? Call the match rigged? Blame the ref? Her opponent? The system? She placed both hands on the edge of the podium and leaned in slightly, staring down at the microphone in front of her. Still silent, a flashbulb went off. She blinked, but did not flinch. The room waited. The air was tight with anticipation, like the whole world was leaning forward together. She exhaled once, calm, steady, and looked up. Her eyes scanned the room. Direct, clear, not angry, not broken, just present. The first words were still somewhere inside her. She let the silence stretch just long enough to make them ache for it. She was not here to explode. She was here to speak. And whatever came next, it would not be noise, it would be truth. She leaned closer to the microphone. No cue cards, no rehearsed lines, just her voice. I know what you all expected, she began, her voice low but steady. You thought I'd come in here crying foul, saying the match was stolen, blaming someone, quitting. She paused, let the weight of that word settle. But I wasn't here to win tonight. The room went still. I was here to fight. There was no bravado in her tone, no bitterness, just clarity, a calm that cut sharper than any outrage ever could. She looked out over the rows of reporters, many still frozen, unsure how to respond. I have spent years preparing in silence, she continued, not because I wanted to surprise anyone, but because I needed to know if I could really stand when it mattered. She touched the bruise on her cheek with 2 fingers, then dropped her hand. My father taught me a lot of things. Discipline, patience. But the lesson that stayed with me the most was this: when the world knocks you down, do not stay there long enough for them to forget your name. A flicker of something behind her eyes, grief, maybe, or steel. I'm just getting started. The room erupted. Flashbulbs fired. Some clapped. Some sat back, stunned. But every single person in that room knew this was not a one-night story. This was chapter 1. Arissa gave a single nod. No smile, no dramatic exit. She stepped back from the mic and walked out the same way she came in, alone, bruised but unshaken, and the silence she left behind was louder than any cheer could have been. Backstage, the air was different. The match had ended over an hour ago, but no one was talking about the winner. They were talking about her. A group of veterans stood near the monitor room, arms crossed, watching the replay in silence. One shook his head and muttered, "She's got that warrior spirit more than some of us ever had when we started." Another nodded, quietly adding, "That wasn't a debut. That was a statement." Trainers, producers, even skeptical talents, people who had seen it all, were now looking at Arissa with new eyes, not as a legacy, not as a name, but as a fighter. Word spread fast. The kind of respect no PR machine could buy had already begun forming, and somewhere in the unwritten hierarchy of the locker room, something shifted. She was no longer Steven Seagal's daughter. She was Arissa Le Brock, and she had arrived. A few days later, a short video surfaced online. Steven Seagal, seated in a quiet room, wearing his signature black robe, looked into the camera. No flashy background, no PR spin. Just him, older, softer around the edges, but still carrying that same commanding calm. He paused for a moment before speaking. "I watched her match," he said, voice low and even, "and I saw something I never expected." He looked down, choosing his next words carefully. "She's stronger than I ever was." Silence. A faint smile touched his lips, not showy, just proud. She didn't just fight. She stood tall in the fire. The clip ended there, but it was enough. The internet exploded. Headlines praised the rare, vulnerable moment. Fans replayed it again and again, and somewhere beneath all the noise, one truth stood tall. She had earned not just the world's respect, but her father's too.